we'll get started with the meeting today. So let me share my screen. We are at committee meeting number 18, first meeting in January. So welcome everybody again. Get rid of some of these pop-ups. So we have an interesting agenda today. Obviously, we're doing some welcomes and introductions in the chat and want to keep encouraging you to do that as the session gets started. And also, we are going to have a guest speaker today. Hannah Browning from Coding It Forward is going to talk about an interesting fellowship program that they have that I think will be of tremendous value to the group here. We're also going to continue our deep dive into some of the upskilling working groups output, and they're going to be checking in on their third playbook, and Stephen Hill's going to be doing a deep dive on that. And then there weren't a lot of project updates. I think a lot of people are still recovering from the holidays and the break, and there is an upskilling update, but that's the main one. And then if we have time, we'll move through some of our policy and adoption stuff and the ongoing action items today. So that's what we have on the agenda today. And I'm going to turn it over. I think, Hannah, are you here on the call?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so let's start with Hannah's presentation from Coding It Forward, and I'm going to turn the floor over to you to get us started. And if you want me to stop sharing and you share, I can do that as well. So,
Okay, great. Yeah, I just sent a request. Perfect.
okay,
All right. And then maybe Richard Albert, can you just give me a thumbs up that you can see my screen?
yes.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for letting me join this, first call of the year. Happy New Year to everyone. I'm really excited to be here, talk a little bit about coding it forward, and explore just some opportunities that we have to potentially partner with some of the folks on this call. My name is Hannah Downing, and I am the partnerships manager here at Coding It Forward. If you haven't heard of Coding It Forward before, we run a fellowship, the Coding It Forward Fellowship, which is a paid 10-week cohort experience for early career technologists to work in government agencies across the country. We started with just federal agencies in 2017 and expanded to supporting state and local teams in 2021. Since our founding, we've placed over 700 fellows in 81 offices nationwide. I'm going to be mentioning early career talent a lot. So when I say early career for this purpose, I'm really talking about juniors and seniors in undergrad, graduate students, as well as recent grads, and some boot camp and certificate holders. So our talent pool really has a wide range of experiences from students with some internship experience to career pivoters. Um, all right, our team runs a pretty high touch program. So, first, we offer full service recruiting and placement for our partner offices who are looking for technical talent. We review thousands of applications, interview hundreds of candidates, and really work to match 3 to 4 highly skilled, highly qualified finalists to the roles that we're looking to fill. We also employ the fellows in-house to hopefully further reduce some of the administrative burden of bringing on fellows. We then support our fellows with a full slate of professional development programming throughout the summer. So, really, really focused on career exposure and exploration. We host weekly speaker events. Maybe some folks on this call have actually been speakers, which is great. Also, bi-weekly check-ins. And then we also match all of our fellows with public sector mentors. Our program is really designed to support the fellows, support our partners, and really try to take the professional development aspect of all of this off of your shoulders so that you can just focus on getting projects done and moving work forward. We gather quite a bit of feedback from our partners. We've been doing this long enough, and here's what we see folks sharing back to us about the value of partnering with Coding It Forward. First, our fellows come in and immediately fill skill and capacity gaps. It's pretty common for a fellow to come in and take on a project that an office has had on the back burner for a couple of years. We also have fellows come in and help carry a project across the finish line. So maybe you need a software engineer to finish up some code, or you need a designer to build out a more accessible form for an application. Many teams have reflected back to us that hiring a fellow is usually less expensive and more efficient than hiring a consultant. You would be amazed about the work that can get done in 10 weeks. So our fellows have really saved teams a lot in terms of personnel costs and hours. And lastly, and maybe kind of the uh, biggest sort of priority here is that investing in early career talent really helps teams set up their talent pipelines for future full-time roles. We've had fellows get hired on immediately post-program. We've also had fellows who maybe go off, explore another industry, another agency, develop their skills, and then eventually come back to the team or agency that they were placed with. And in the early days of Coding It Forward, we had to convince teams that young people wanted to work in government, and that is not really an issue anymore. I think everyone now can see that. Over the last 4 years, our application numbers have just continued to increase. We received over 6,500 applications just in 2025 alone. And our recruitment efforts really do reach across the nation. We've had, in 2025, all, 50 states represented, over 700 academic institutions. So we're really dealing with just a massive, wonderful talent pool over here. Um, so let me zoom in a little bit on the work. Our fellows are not just doing side projects. These are not intern projects that are scoped just for, you're bringing on an intern. They're really embedding directly in our government offices, working on real problems with real constraints. We've placed fellows in offices of all different shapes and sizes, from a team in Los Angeles to a team in Utah. In these roles, fellows have worked on things like modernizing data infrastructures, building public-facing dashboards, redesigning websites and applications for accessibility. What's important here is that a lot of these placements typically sit at the intersection of policy, operations, technology. And you all probably relate to this, but this is exactly where teams are feeling the pressure right now, especially as AI tools start entering, more and more public workflows. I always like to mention the project in Los Angeles. This was a couple summers ago. Our fellows analyzed the city procurement opportunities and awards to identify potential inequalities. And this was the first time anyone had tried to do this in 20 years. So really, really cool work coming in for a summer. I always also like to mention Utah. One of our alumni actually became the state's first ever chief data officer. And then another one of our fellows actually stayed on with their placement full time. They worked in 2022, and as of, January 2026, I'm pretty sure he's still there, which is really cool. And this really speaks to the fact that in many cases, these placements and these engagements don't end when the fellowship ends. One of the strongest signals that this model works is what happens after the fellowship. We've seen fellows convert into full-time roles with the offices that they started as, or they use this new wonderful network to pivot and work at a different agency or a different team. For governments, this lowers the risk of hiring technical talent. You're not kind of just hoping that a hire works out because you've already worked with this person before. And for fellows, and this is really important too, it helps demystify government work and shows them that there is a career path here. Even someone like me, I'm several years into my career now, and I still sometimes get confused. So that's really some of the work that we're doing kind of behind the scenes. And this is how we're strengthening talent pipelines. We're exposing early career talent to government and supporting them to dive even deeper after the program ends. Now, we know every office is different, so we don't expect offices to hire fellows post-program. We are very aware that there are many constraints around hiring, but it's just something that we try to encourage whenever possible. Which brings us to, I think, why this matters so much right now. And you probably don't need me telling you any of this because, as you are probably all aware, governments are really being asked to respond to AI, to these emerging technologies at a moment when trust in institutions is really fragile. Data privacy expectations are high, and also the technology just itself is moving incredibly quickly. So AI isn't just a technical issue, and we over at Coding It Forward could talk about this for hours. It's a governance issue, it's a talent issue, it's a people issue. Questions about procurement, data use, bias, accountability are all landing on you all. And maybe you have some in-house technical capacity, but you maybe don't have enough. So you're, not able to evaluate, you're not able to move as quickly as maybe you would hope. And so what we hear from partners is we don't just need tools. We need people who can ask the right questions, people who understand how these systems really do work. How does this technology really work? But also people who understand public values, people who understand, some of the concerns that the public is coming to this with. So that's the gap that our fellows are really helping to fill. And importantly, this is not new territory for us. AI has kind of become this public buzzword, but this has been around for quite a while. And our fellows have been supporting AI efforts since the very first cohort in 2017. Across the fellowship, across placements, we've supported over 90 projects involving AI. Most commonly, I guess the top five, categories would be machine learning, natural language processing, data analysis, bias mitigation, these types of things. And these projects have happened as agencies are actively figuring things out. How are you complying to new guidance? How are we evaluating these tools? And how are we using data responsibly? And how are we communicating with the public about this? And that's being recognized too. Our good partners over at USDA actually named our fellowship as a partner in their AI compliance plan in 2024. So that signals that folks are seeing real value in bringing in short-term, technically skilled talent to support this moment and dealing with, the challenges head on. So even in a 10-week model, fellows can meaningfully support AI readiness and do so in ways that aligns with your priorities and public needs and concerns as well. I pulled just two examples. As I said, there's 90, but these are just two from a city level from a couple summers ago. In Boston, we had our fellows who developed a city chatbot to kind of help answer some questions more efficiently. And then in Baltimore, we actually had our fellows using natural language processing to improve service requests routing across the entire city. So, as governments look for ways to respond quickly, responsibly, credibly, talent really has to be part of that equation. And our fellowship offers a way to bring in the technically skilled, mission-driven people now, while also helping you build longer-term capacity for your offices. So, for this group, there are kind of a few ways to engage here. First and foremost, we are actively recruiting placements for this summer. If this is something that you're interested in, I'd love to schedule a call if possible in the next couple of weeks. We're hoping to kind of get the ball rolling with, getting project requests and project details starting the end of this month. But additionally, we are also piloting some off-cycle placements. So maybe summer isn't the ideal timeline for you. Let's chat about an alternative timeline. Our first ever winter cohort is starting next week. I don't think I saw Ryan on the call, but Ryan Kurtzman, we are placing a fellow with his team, so super excited about that. And we're already kind of talking to teams about what would fall placements look like. And then I'll also emphasize this point too. We're really interested in supporting offices outside of this typical fellowship structure. We know the structure works. We're really good at facilitating it, but we know it's not the only solution to bring tech talent into government. So we're looking for partners to collaborate with us, maybe identify other ways technical talent can help you unblock some things. Any idea you've had like scratching the back of your mind, reach out. We'd love to chat. We're kind of in exploratory phase, which I think a lot of folks are kind of like, how do we pivot? How do we be nimble in this time? And that's, something else we're doing too. So if you're thinking about how your organization or agency can tackle some upcoming work or some upcoming, even just ideas of work that you have, we'd love to talk and see what it could look like to place fellows that directly or indirectly even support AI readiness. We're excited about the fellows that are coming in. We actually just opened our application this week, and the numbers are already pretty high. So I can probably bet I will be giving another record, in the next couple of months. But we're most excited about what's possible when young people, young tech talent, really get to roll up their sleeves and support public service delivery. And we'd really love to help connect those folks to you with your teams. So if you're interested, let's have a conversation. My inbox is open, hannah@codingitforward.com. Would love to chat. Even if you're not sold, like let's just chat and see, what else I can help with, and how a fellow could fit into the equation. So thank you all for the attention, letting me have a couple minutes of your time. Thank you, Rich, and also Layla for helping us spread the word. We have a few minutes, I think, for questions.
Yeah.
So feel free to you can send in the chat, you can unmute, I'm open. Also, feel free to just email me and we can chat offline as well. Thanks, everyone. And
Yeah,
I'm
and
looking at the
echoing what
chat.
Hannah said, if there are questions, if people have any questions about her program that she's mentioned today, that would be great. Just share them in the chat or unmute yourself, raise your hand. Um, I will send around Hannah's contact information or our post-meeting follow-up too, as well as a link to this presentation if you didn't get it in the chat. Um, but this is a really interesting program, Hannah. And Sabra, you have a question? Oh, you're muted. So
Hi, I came in about 10 minutes late, so I'm sorry if I missed it, Hannah. But can you talk briefly about the logistics? I think I saw a question in the chat about what's the cost. You
Yeah.
mentioned you have multiple timelines. Just some of the hard logistics would be super helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, so if we're thinking, I think easiest, to frame is if we're thinking just with the summer program, it typically runs early June through mid-August. So this year it'll be June 8th through August 14th. And these are full-time, 40 hours a week placements for 10 weeks. And the cost, so fellows are employed by Coding It Forward, and we actually set sort of the wage for fellows. Going into this year, we're looking at $22 to $25 per hour. So factoring in also our support, our recruiting costs, and everything like that, placements are sitting between 15 to 20K per fellow. And I want to add like a big asterisk to that. We know budgets are really, really tight for folks. And we've been piloting some university partnerships to kind of help lower the cost there. We piloted one with U Chicago last year that was really successful. And we're also super open to help out with grant applications. Maybe there is a community foundation that might be interested. Let us know. We're happy to help write out some responses and all that good stuff. Cost, logistics. Did I answer the question fully? Was there anything else?
Absolutely. Thank
Okay.
you. I see we have another question in the chat about what's the typical profile of a fellow.
Yeah, so we hire under 5 different areas of practice: data, design, product, cybersecurity, and software engineering, which is pretty broad, right? These are really big umbrella terms. And we have different kind of specializations that fellows can fall into under those areas of practice. The way that we kind of approach this is we have our partners. Fill out a role description template. That's something that we provide. Is really focused on required skills, desired qualifications, and just kind of the work that you're hoping to accomplish. What our team does is really reviews those and helps you scope them so that they're in line with, is it feasible in 10 weeks? Does it kind of match the skill level of an early career technologist? So that's something that really we help support because we know not everyone, has that sort of level of understanding. But I mean, I can sit here and talk all day about how don't underestimate early career talent. I mean, they're bringing such interesting cutting edge perspectives and skills. A lot of times we've had partners come back to us and say like, yeah, they introduced, a whole like method of reasoning that we did not know about that's like still being taught in courses. So I think the best way to do this, I'll drop this in the chat. We have a GitHub that just has descriptions of all past projects. It's obviously a bit dense, but if you need a little inspiration, I'll send that link in the chat too. And then that's kind of next step is chat with us. Let's have a conversation about what kind of needs you have. And we can discuss how, a fellow in one of these areas of practice really fits in.
Great. Thanks so much, Hannah. And Albert, I see your hand raised also.
Yeah, thanks, Hannah. And
Thank
I
you.
put this in the chat, but San Jose, we had a few fellows a couple years ago. It was funded from the Knight Foundation, so I'm going to echo that. If you have a local foundation or a local org that's able to support that, there's precedent. Um, what level, like what stage in the process should I come to you with when I'm thinking about being a host organization, right? Like, do I need to come to you saying, I have this product package or this project packaged up for 10 weeks ready to go? Can I just come to you and say like, hey, the city, we're excited about this? Like what's the gamut there?
Yeah. Honestly, it's both and I think, it's not realistic to say, hey, it's January, we need a work plan for 10 weeks in the summer right now. So the way that we typically approach it is offices will have a project in mind, right? They have pressure point they're trying to address, or they have a challenge they're trying to address. And maybe they've already identified the skills they need to get there, and that's what they don't have. That's what you can come to us with, and we can help kind of scope what that project looks like. I'll also say this is something that we've done, especially with our state and local teams. Maybe you have a couple projects in mind, and you're like, it's all important. We like, if I could hire 10 fellows to address this, I would. But we're actually really just looking like whatever talent you have, somebody who can come in and kind of hit the ground running, we can slot them into a project. So we've had folks send us role descriptions that have 5 different, little project blurbs in them, as long as we know the skills that you're looking for. And those are actually kind of my favorite placements because we get really creative with it and kind of have like a choose your own adventure scenario. But yeah, all of the above, really, I think that important thing is getting a chance for us to sit down and talk about what you're looking for, and we can really help you take it from there.
Thanks.
Thanks, Hannah. I think this is a great program, and it's such a good option for people who are struggling to fill capacity gaps around AI. And I anticipate there could be some reverse mentoring also happening in these types of situations where people are passing on knowledge up the chain too. So I think there's a lot of great potential for that, and just getting some traction on some projects that you might not have the immediate internal capacity to do. So.
Yeah. Exactly. You've had something for a while, it, would be great if it could get done. And yeah, that reverse mentorship happens. I love when that happens because it's just a learning opportunity for everyone, especially if your team hasn't really had early career openings recently. So you're not in the practice of working with early career. You kind of don't know what that's like. This is a really cool opportunity to have that learning experience.
Great. And so thanks again for coming. And as I said, I'll share all the information and contact information with Hannah in the chat. I know this, people might want to absorb and think about how this applies to them, and then they'll have your contact information if they want to engage any further. And it'd be great if anybody does engage with Coding It Forward to come back and tell us some success stories with that too. So
Awesome.
looking forward to
Thanks,
hearing
Rich.
more about that.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so
I'm going to
much,
throw
Hannah.
some links in the chat just so that folks have them. But yeah, awesome. Appreciate everyone's time.
That's great. Thank you so much, Hannah. Okay, well, that was very interesting. We are going to move next to, let me pull up my deck here. Next, we're going to do a deep dive. As I mentioned before, we've been diving into a review of some of the products that our working groups have developed, so that we can educate the larger committee about that, and let us be sort of ambassadors for the great content that the working groups are building out. So we've looked at 2 playbooks already. We started with Marty delivering Getting Started with AI Training in Your Agency, and the last meeting, Stephen talked about his playbook on rolling out an education plan. So Stephen again is here to present with us today about the last of these 3 playbooks that they've been working on building custom GPTs and agents. So we're very excited to welcome Stephen back to do a little deep dive into this and look at the playbook and the accompanying visual aid that was developed for it. So, Stephen, I'm going to turn over to you, and if you want me to turn off sharing, I will.
Okay, thanks, Rich. Yeah, I'll go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so yeah, thanks everybody. Good to see you again. The playbook that I'll be discussing today is covering AI agents, custom GPTs, and kind of looking at how to safely and responsibly deploy those in your various agencies. What you see on the screen right now is one of the roadmaps that accompanies our playbooks. So it's kind of a way to visually see how the playbook is structured. You can access these on the San Jose SharePoint website. Right now, I've got it in Google Drive because I accidentally forgot my authenticator, but it's the exact same document. What it is it's a 35-page document, but it goes through the entire process.
And Stephen, just for a second, we're getting a little bit of feedback on your end on the microphone, I think. So I don't know if there's any adjustment that you might make or something.
I think there was someone else who had a mic on. I just muted it.
Oh,
sorry
great.
about that.
Thank you, Albert.
Yeah, thanks, Albert. So yeah, basically the process for all of these tools really, it starts with intake and readiness, focusing on, is AI even applicable? When you talk to different vendors and different organizations, some people want to throw AI at everything. So this roadmap starts off with focusing on intake and making sure that you're ready to even start deploying AI agents. In the playbook, we also have a skeleton for what an agent charter should look like, just saying who is the owner, what is the data that it'll be drawing from, and what are those boundaries for how it should behave. We also break out the different metrics and how to measure and evaluate the effectiveness of the AI tool, because again, you can start looking at how much time is saved, how accurate it is, but you also need to consider things like the token cost. What is the cost of completion? How do the different models impact it? And that's discussed in more detail in the playbook. We also talk about the instructions. So whether you're using custom GPTs, Gemini, GEMs, building actual agents, all of them have a set of system instructions, and this explains how the tool should behave. And we talk about best practices for that in the playbook. We also break out different types of RAG. RAG is retrieval augmented generation. It's just a way of making the AI hallucinate less because you're telling it not to draw on its own corpus of knowledge, but on a specific body of knowledge. And we break out both vector RAG and graph RAG in the playbook so you can understand where you would apply either of those. We talk about setting up an MVP. With a lot of these tools, you don't need to start rolling out AI agents everywhere. You don't even need to start setting up custom GPTs everywhere. It's better to get one product rolled out and make sure that it goes through the paces, because not only will you and your team learn about how AI works, but it also helps other employees start to get used to interacting with a custom GPT or an actual agent. I think an important thing too is we cover testing and how to make sure that the agent is going to perform as expected. You've probably heard of red teaming in cybersecurity. There are similar frameworks for AI agents. It's really, you can think of it as stress testing the agent, making sure that you figure out where it's breaking and figure out where the hard denials need to go. Ultimately, a lot of this upfront work is designed just to get ready for the pilot. Once you actually move into pilot mode, that's when you're going to start to really uncover where it starts to misbehave, act as unexpected. And so through the course of the pilot, we talk about what telemetry you need to be tracking, what kind of metrics should your agent be presenting to you, and then how to go through and make corrections quickly based off of that data. After the pilot, then that's when you start to move into from the crawl phase into the walk and run phase. And depending on your environment, some people have test, dev, production environments. This will walk you through the process of moving it into production. We also discuss some of the more advanced features. So this would be hierarchical AI agents, agent swarms, and some of the more complex use cases and when and where you would put those into effect. And then we talk about scaling these more advanced aspects of agents. And then it's also important to think about when you deploy these tools, they're only going to be as accurate as the information they're drawing from. So you should try to have a plan for when you either scale or sunset the models. And that's all in the playbook. As mentioned, the playbook, it's pretty robust. It's not designed for only technical people. In our executive summary, we've broken out the different sections and what pertains to what crowds. So we have an audience map that says which of the sections are pertinent to leaders, governance, compliance type roles, what's important to the product owners, the data stewards, and what should be considered for security and compliance. And as mentioned, this is available on the GovAI SharePoint site. So I can go ahead and stop and see if there's any questions. One thing that we would like to know is if there's any feedback on the visual roadmap, if there's anything that could make it easier to understand. It is a complex topic, but we want to make sure that it's accessible to everyone.
And Stephen, real quick, are you able to provide the link that Google Doc link that you have? Are you able to provide that in the chat?
Oh, yeah.
Just for folks who, they might not they might be struggling with the access on the SharePoint side, so that they can follow along with this.
Yeah, I'll post it right now.
Awesome, thank you.
Mhm.
I'll pass it back to you, and for others who have questions and feedback. Well, I'll start with one if that's okay. Am I supposed? So I'm looking at the roadmap. I love the roadmap. I'm looking at it. Am I supposed to follow these steps sequentially?
Yeah, so for deploying agents, while it is an iterative process, you do want to follow it somewhat linearly because
Yeah.
one thing that we've noticed is when you start to talk with vendors is a good example. They're going to try to throw a lot of different examples of where use cases could be. It's important to just start with a narrow scope. Even if it's a custom GPT or a Gemini gem, start with a narrow scope. So that's why it's important to start at that intake. And then if you walk through these processes all the way to basically the pilot, you'll have something that's working as expected and something that you can really test. So while it is iterative, once you get to the operate and maintain phase, it is best at least to stay in a linear path until the pilot, just to make sure you're checking all of those boxes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Makes a ton of sense. And I'd love to, I don't know if this is the right venue for it, but I've got a few thoughts on just minor language tweaks here that might help me understand that.
Oh, yeah.
But we can save that for the end, maybe separate.
Great.
And
Thank
more
you.
than happy to do deep dive if anybody has questions or they want to just talk about what they're thinking about with AI agents. I'm always happy to connect with people.
I'm assuming, Stephen, this is a process that you've developed from hard-won experience and your own troubleshooting, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's ideally going to save a lot of people a lot of time. I think it's also important you don't have to jump into AI agents right away. Start off with custom GPTs, co-pilots, all of those tools, because learning how to use the more simple versions it'll save you a lot of time.
Great, and thanks for sharing that additional link there in the chat. Are there any other questions, Lan?
Yeah, just very quickly. Stephen, this is amazing that you're able to actually present to the people with both the technical rigor and also the pragmatic uses of it. So it's just a perfect and could be replicated by interested parties. So that much I can see. And Rich and Albert, I just wanted to add to this that our upscaling working group also is in place to grow and support initiatives like this. So our members can pilot some initial initiatives, and then the upskilling working group can also provide some team members to help along, kind of similar to what Coding It Forward presented earlier, maybe with two slight differences, if I may, that our program may be a bit longer than 10 weeks, because you can imagine something like this, 10 weeks won't do it. And then we also are matching people with local governments without payment at the get-go, as the initial partnership allows us to grow. So we're exploring growing forward in a collaborative way like it. So just wanted to, as a supplementary note, to add to this. And Stephen, thank you so very much. You've been a huge inspiration.
Great, thank you so much, Lan. And I saw a question in the chat. Albert was asking about a good starter use case. And Stephen, you want to elaborate on that a little bit? Like what?
Yeah. So Albert's question was, what's a good starter use case for an agent? And I think one of the easiest is anything that answers frequently asked questions. It can be about policies, job aids, even how-to guides for tools like Power BI or Office productivity. I think to answer Molly's question also, some of the interesting chatbots we've built are both from the job aids perspective. We've just deployed one that's pulling from 6 different websites. It answers questions about WebEx, Workday, all the other platforms, and is centrally located so any employee can access it. And once you get the basis of just the general retrieval augmented generation, that's when you can start playing around with the more advanced features.
Can you, what would be an example of that progression, like moving from simple to more progressive?
So a good example that we have, sorry, the lights are automatic in this room, but what we did is we started off with just a basic agent that's pulling questions from policies and procedures, because there's over 600 of them and it's hard to find the right answer. From there, we then set up to figure out, if it's so hard to find answers, it's also hard to manage, make updates. And so we built agents that reference the same database of policies and procedures. And then based on the user inquiries, it can then reformat them, restructure them, change the wording, make updates in a central manner. So now instead of having to have a working group that pulls out a bunch of PDFs, you can have them interact with an agent that says, our policy for remote work needs to be updated. They can interact with an AI agent that says, here's the old version, what do you want to change? And then it makes those changes, reformats it, structures it, and then upserts it to a central spot. So then you've always got real-time answers to the policies. You don't have to worry about version control because it's also in a central location. So that would be kind of one example of progressing from a basic policy chatbot to managing policies and interacting with them.
Great. Thank you so much, Stephen. And what's been the um, response from the agency in terms of the user end?
I think people are pretty comfortable because one thing that everybody's always concerned about is hallucinations and how trustworthy these are.
Yeah.
When you set them up correctly, you can set them up to provide those in-text citations. So when we first started off, we were using just custom GPTs for that, and it works really well. But then we moved on to more agent platforms. And then you can start to get very specific with how the AI models are acting. But now, when users, if they ask a question for how to set up my PIN for a phone, not only do they see the answer, but we also have a hyperlink to the actual document. So the person can click on the button. Maybe they don't trust the answer, but they can also go straight to the PDF that has the how to guide right there from the chat. So that made a big difference in terms of people starting to get over those concerns about the hallucination.
That's such a great example of how this is like a step up in functionality, right? And it's like helping reduce some of that error and at least give people a starting point to look on their own if they are concerned about anything they're hearing from the chatbot. So I think that's great. Andrew had a follow-up question, Stephen, on is the accuracy 100%? Did we lose Stephen? Oh, here he is. I don't know if he's there. He may have gotten. Stephen, are you there? I think he's reconnecting.
Yeah,
Yeah, it might be
sorry about that.
There he is.
Hey, sorry
Yeah, I
about
was
that.
just going to answer for Andrew's question. You'll
Yeah.
never actually get to 100%, but by using RAG and using GraphRag embeddings, all these other tools, you can get closer to it, but never. Yeah, maybe 99%.
0.99.
Yeah, it does reduce the chance of hallucination, and that's just because you're forcing it to draw from those documents.
All right. Well, this is really exciting, Stephen, and I have forwarded your playbook on to one of my staff who's interested in building out some agentic platforms. So I'll report back on how they have adapted that and used that. So, but really great work, and this is a really detailed guide. All of these three playbooks are just amazing resources, full of great like guidance, resources, links, and references that you can go and explore on your own. So I think they're all just really tremendously valuable, and I think the high level visual accompaniments are really helpful for just thinking big picture about how to navigate through the processes that you're outlining. So really congratulations to you and the other people in the upskilling group that have put so much time and effort into these playbooks. I think they're going to be really tremendously valuable to people in the committee and the larger coalition. So
Thanks,
really
Rich.
great.
Steve, Rich, really quick, this
Yeah,
is
sure.
here. Stephen, the playbook that you shared or the Google Doc you shared, is the roadmap also in that? I was looking at that. I couldn't find it in that. Is that there?
Yeah, sorry. I'll share a link to the other the roadmap. We have them in our upskilling Google Drive, so I'll just post both of those links in right now.
That'd be great. Thank you so much. Amazing work. Always. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
And we'll also include these links in the post-meeting follow-up for people. So if you ever have any access issues, also just let us know and we can get access to you. So okay, the next thing on our agenda, let me get my deck back up here, is I think there was a check-in from either Rick or Lon about the upskilling group. So I'm gonna their broader efforts outside of just this playbook. So I don't know which one of you wants to check in here, but I will open the floor to either of you.
Thank you, Rich. I will do this one as Rick and I will alternate for full coverage. So for the thanks again, Stephen. You really put us under the limelight by the great work. And now for, as Rich said, beyond what Stephen and team have done, there are three other initiatives that the upscaling working group has been taking on. And I will start with the playbooks, which Stevens is a part of it. There are a few other playbooks that team members also presented before. And for our meeting members here, if you are interested in going back, I'm sure you can review Rich's email from previous committee meetings. But also, of course, we are always here to answer any questions as well. So on the playbooks, so basically, it is ready for wider group circulation, maybe with a little bit more polishing. So the group does have a question. Maybe Rich and Albert, we later on can decide about what level of circulation you'd like to see, and the group can put in a bit more effort to polish accordingly. So we'll set up a separate meeting for that. And
Great.
so the
Thanks.
second initiative is certification for government staff members and maybe even beyond. So one thing we wanted to be clear about is that certificate programs and certification programs are two entirely different things, with the former being rather easy to set up in a short time frame. But with the certification program, this means a sustainable and much more complex effort with CPE. People probably have heard about it, continuous education, professional education, to support the certification to be in place, and it also supports careers. So that certifications initiative now will get much more sophisticated, I would say, comprehensive documents, and also lining up potential partners so that we can take it to the Readiness and Adoption Committee and also the GovAI group, leadership group in Q1 for the next steps. So with roadmaps, etc. So that's on the certification program for government or public interest AI professionals track. The third one is the collaborative program, which similar to what I commented earlier. It's a group of people with pros, professionals, and early talent partnering up together to support government agencies' projects. And that is going through funding or seeking funding process. And so, Hannah, for sure, we're going to follow up with you to see opportunities ahead. And then the documentation along will also continue to be a living thing, so that the program itself, besides producing usable apps, for example, most importantly, we envision the gain is in growth of professionals, including both the existing government officials and also the new talent. So together, it's to Andrew's point, really, it's the human readiness is the API in this revolution of AI. So that's how we see it. And then the last initiative on performance metrics, that's the latest edition. And it got put on or taken up by the group after, I think, City of San Jose sharing, or maybe before that. So anyways, it's like all of our initiatives here. It is first put forward by government entities to see that there is such a need. And then the group thinks that, hey, there is a wider applications of it, and therefore it's taken up for the group to put more effort into it. So initially it's to measure training programs effectiveness. And so potentially there is for this initiative to present and develop a catalog of all performance metrics so that different agencies can just reference and pick and choose whichever ones suit their initiatives the best. Okay, so that's basically intro of the 4 initiatives and their current status. Our next meeting is January 20th. We meet every 2 weeks. And so everyone here is welcome to join in by emailing that email address, and you will be approved within 2 days, and then things will follow after that. I'll pause, Rich, back to you.
Great. Thanks so much, Lon. As always, lots of great activity and thinking going on in the upskilling working group, and it's really exciting to see all of these projects as they're moving forward. I did see at the top here about the volunteer guide. Do you want to say anything about that guide that you've published?
Oh, right. So that guide, indeed. So one of our newer members from also on not name names, but from a government entity said for them to volunteer, they need to have a document about the volunteer opportunity to join our upscaling working group. So they get clearance from the authorities. And so we developed this, and the government official was able to present it even in its draft format to their authorities. And so now they're going to join us, or they already have joined us. So the guidebook, I'm not sure if you can, we can post it in the chat window so we all can see. And it basically speaks about the commitment, or what kind of roles there are, what kind of commitment it requires, and the growth opportunities, the benefits of joining the group. So things like that for everyone to just take a quick look at.
Great. Thank you, Lon. And I did take a quick look at that before the meeting, and it's really nice and comprehensive about all the different roles and how you can participate, and some justification for your agency about commitment to the work. So really great work on that as well. And I'll include that link in the post-meeting follow-up as well for people to take a look at that. We're almost out of time here today. I had a feeling these topics would take up some time and there would be interest about them, and I think it's been really helpful. The other things that we sort of want to mention in almost every meeting is about our AI policy. Sahir, who is my co-chair here today, provides this service to agencies about one-on-one sessions and support for agencies that are moving through adopting AI and utilizing the greater coalition's resources and implementing some of those templates and resources. And I think Sahar said she didn't really have a check-in today or an update on specific engagements, but I did want to, we'll always make this information available to people that need support. And I know she's always available to engage with people about that directly. So, Sahar, did you want to add anything to that?
Thank you, Rich. No, nothing much. I know we are just getting back into the new year, and I still do have some people who reached out just before the holidays or during the holidays that I still have to reach back out. But please feel free to reach out with any questions, anything you have regarding policy and how you can adapt for your agency, and we can figure it out together, even if it is a very specific situation or case. And yeah, that's all. Thank you, Rich.
Just really quickly, Sahar, what specific questions do people usually come with you, or is it just a variety of things?
Mostly what has been is I have this agency which is either large or very small. I don't have a formal IT department, or my elected officials or my mayor is not completely bought in, or we don't even need all those regulations and policies. So I tell people, first of all, why there is a need for a policy. It's to protect the organizations, and it's not like necessarily like you're not hindering people from using AI, but just more protections. And then people who are on board or understand the use of policy either are and I don't blame them. I was confused too when we first get in and don't know how to navigate all the resources. I point them to all the templates and documents we have available on the Gov Coalition website. Very comprehensive, like 90-day, how to get started, and some of the things that we need, like which departments should I engage, who should I even, where do I start, and things like that. So I all of that information is there, but like just some introductions and how it is practically applicable, and how to navigate the website, and like when you have a policy, how you can adapt to your own organization, or when they are adopting, they review the policies with me to see, I've made these changes, does it make sense, should I have something else? So it's all over the place, but most of the information is already available, but it can be inundating sometimes. So just one-on-one to see how it is applicable to them, and what parts they need to uh, pay special attention to, the do's and don'ts of the policy and things like that.
Great.
Does
Thank
it
you so
does it
much.
help?
Yeah, I think that's really helpful. It gives a context for people. And I think, Sahara is really great at helping in this capacity. So I encourage people to reach out to her. And again, we'll make this available in our post-meeting follow-up, how to get in touch with her. And I know we're right at time, so I'm going to stop my share. And I just want to thank everybody for kicking us off so well in the new year. Thanks to Hannah and Stephen for your presentations today. And look forward to sending out some notes from this meeting and links for everybody to access the resources that have been talked about today. So really appreciate everybody's time and energy today. And we will see you again on January 21st, I believe. So look forward to seeing everybody then.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.